one of the most frequent asked questions from our clients about the philosophy is around valuations and market timing. As in, why do we see no value in trying to enter into our portfolio companies at cheap valuations, and why don't we try to exit at expensive valuations, waiting for the valuations to correct again? Now, market timing valuations is a practice followed widely around the world under a classical value investing paradigm, I would say. So in this webinar, let me take you through a few slides to delve on this matter in a little different way, which will actually help answer these questions around why don't we try to time markets and time valuations. And we'll limit ourselves only to mathematics, because everything else can be debated, can be questioned. Mathematics is pure, simple. There's no debate around it. So rather than using science behind investing, we'll use mathematics behind investing. So let's move to the next slide. On the slide screen, you can see a very simple and non-debatable equation. Yeah. So the equation says that the share price of any company is a product of its PE multiple and earnings. Yeah. The PE multiple, interestingly, does not compound over a period of time. Yeah. In fact, the PE multiple of most stocks and indices it largely doubles or halves over a period of time. So Sensex, Nifty would see their PE multiple go from 13, 14 times at the bottom to 26, 28 times at the top. HDFC Bank would oscillate between 20 times PE multiple at the bottom to 40 times at the top. You would rarely, or actually you would probably never see PE multiples oscillating between 5 times at the bottom to 100 times top, right? So it's largely a doubling, halving of PE that we see for indices and stocks. Now, when you look at the second factor in the equation, which is earnings, earnings keeps compounding over time. So if you do have companies which keep growing, earnings will become 10 times, 100 times, at times 1,000 times bigger over a period of a few years or decades, which then, in a way, this is a different variant of the same equation, that to get a share price change from your investment in any stock, right? You have to get a combination of PE multiple change and earnings change, right? Now, if you look at the three classifications of companies which have come up on the left-hand side of your slides, yeah. So let's divide the Indian stock market into type A, type B, and type C stocks. So type A stocks, they comprise around actually 80 to 90% of the Indian market. These are companies which find it difficult to grow earnings over extended periods of time. Yeah, I've taken the example of companies in Indian. So I've taken the example of sectors like telecom, airlines, right? These are companies which have never-ending volume growth. They keep flying aeroplanes, they keep adding subscribers to their telecom networks, but there are no earnings growth, right? Because they have no sustainable competitive advantages, and hence the earnings don't compound much. The second type of stocks that exist in our country are the type B, which we call as, you can refer to them as B for Buffett. These are actually good companies. Yeah, they are good companies. I've given a couple of examples here. Maruti and Hindustan Unilever are some examples of these. They have meaningful competitive advantages, and as a result, they do end up growing their businesses. However, the growth in these businesses is no more than, say, 12 or 13%, which is pretty much the same rate as nominal GDP growth. And on a cycle basis, rate that Sensex or Nifty also deliver in their earnings, which is about 12-13% growth over a decade-long period, let's say, annualized basis, right? Why do we call this as B for Buffett? Well, these are the these are these growth rates of earnings are similar to what you would get in very good quality companies listed in the US markets, in the UK markets, etc. And as a result, what Warren Buffett has actually tried to do is pick up these stocks. And type A plus type B together, they comprise of 100% of the listed universe of the US markets or the UK markets. In India, interestingly, there's a type C as well. So we'll come to that in a minute. But let's first see how the equation of share price movement evolves around type A and type B. So what you now see is an equation where you've got on the extreme right side earnings growth of type A being 0, and as I said, the PE multiple at best would double over a decade-long period. So let's say you have a fund manager. Who can time investments in type A companies so well that he goes through the doubling of the PE multiple while he holds the stock in the portfolio, right? Now, doubling over a 10-year period is a positive 7% CAGR. And hence the PE multiple change annually is contributing to 7% positive to this equation. Your share price outcome is also a plus 7%, and you've got a unhappy smiley on the right because plus 7% is no greater return to be derived, even though you have timed the PE expansion very well, right? What happens if P by E multiple halves? Well, with 0% earnings growth, let's say over a decade, which actually is something that many telecom companies have delivered in the country, many airline companies have delivered. With 0 earnings growth, halving of PE multiple leaves you with minus 7% share price return, which again is a very, very unhappy situation for any investor to be in. If we come to type B, this is what great investors in the Western world have successfully done. They get 12-13% earnings compounding. They see significant PE expansion during their holding period, and they end up delivering around 20%, 19-20% share price compounding, which actually will make you very healthy over a 10-year period, and hence it's a very happy outcome for investors. Let's see what happens if P/E multiple halves on the on your portfolio of type B companies. So if in a Maruti or a Unilever, you capture halving of P/E multiple and the company is delivering a 10-year earnings CAGR of only 12%, you are again getting a very unhappy outcome of positive 5%. So in a way, as I said, type A plus type B is 100% of US markets listed universe. And the type B equations quite clearly tell you that timing of P/E multiple becomes very central to defining a happy or unhappy outcome as an investor, right? So timing of P/E multiple is very important. This is what is the conventional value investing paradigm that we all know about, and hence it makes a lot of sense. Now let's just come to type C. So first let me explain what really are these type C companies that exist only in India, not in any other large economy globally. Now these are the companies where the competitive advantages are so strong, they generate such vast free cash flows that they are able to not only return a very generous dividend to shareholders, but also reinvest these cash flows in growing their businesses whilst retaining the competitive advantage of these businesses. So the likes of Asian Paints, HDFC Bank, they've ended up as a result delivering 25%, 27% earnings compounding over 10, 15, 20 long years, unlike the Hindustan Unilevers of the world, unlike the Marutis of the world. And that, in a way, is what we define as consistent compounders. Now, with a type C firm, if the fund manager is able to get the timing of his entry and exit right, As in, if he can capture the doubling of P by E multiple, the equation that you see on your screen shows you that with 25% earnings compounding, you get a 7% icing on the cake, and you compound your share price at 32% annualized, which is obviously a very healthy outcome, will make every investor very wealthy. But let's also see what happens if you don't end up timing the PE multiple well, right? Uh, Having of P by E multiple on your screens, it shows you will still deliver a 18-19% share price return. And mind you, these share price returns don't include the dividends. So whilst a telecom or an airline company will not be able to give you dividends, the type C companies will give you about 2% dividend yield. So you can add a layer of 2% on top of what you see on the screens here. In a way, what this simple comparison is telling you is that if you invest in type C companies, the strength of the earnings growth may multiple timing a redundant exercise, because your outcome is happy regardless of whether you time the P by E multiple expansion well or whether you undergo compression in the P by E multiple on your portfolio. It's the 25% compounding of earnings, the strength of that 25%, which makes the outcome indifferent in terms of happiness and wealth creation on your portfolio, right? So that's in a nutshell what we are aiming to do. With consistent compounders, we are trying to build a very concentrated portfolio of companies of type C. And the best and most recent example is Page Industries. Here again, I'll refer to it. Although in a very short period of time, we've seen a compression in its PE multiple, as long as we are correct in predicting a 25% compounding of Page Industries, your outcome of the share price will not be a disappointing one, regardless of where the PE multiple goes. And also, mind you, I don't think there is any science which can give you a very high probability of predicting the PE multiple. So theoretically speaking, obviously there's a difference between 32% and 18%. But practically speaking, since the timing of PE multiple is possibly just as good as a toss of a coin, it's not possible. It's not actually worth chasing the plus 32 versus plus 18, because both outcomes are pretty good. Now let's come to the interesting thing about this. So why is this type C companies equation so simple and yet not very commonly found, not very commonly followed? Why do people in India as well keep trying to time PE multiples if you have type C companies as options available to you, right? That's because it's not too easy to do two things about the type C investing, right? The first thing is forecasting the change in PE multiple is like deriving excitement out of investments. Yeah, many fund managers, many investors would not believe that they can add enough value to their investments if they could not forecast P by E multiple movements, or if they could not forecast whether Narendra Modi comes or doesn't come in the general elections, and if he comes, will the stock market go up or not, and if the stock market goes up, will their share prices of portfolio companies go up or not, right? That layer of forecasting of PE multiples at various levels for the market, for the stocks, is utter excitement. It is good to have excitement in your life, but in a way, when you do type C investing, by making the P by E multiple redundant, the strength of the earnings growth is in a way making the investment exercise very boring, right? And boring is obviously not too easy to do. It is very simple, but not too easy to do. The second challenge is forecasting a change in earnings over a long period of time means understanding of fundamentals to a very deep level. Now, if you are trying to build conviction on a company to be able to deliver 25% earnings compounding for 10 long years into the future, you have to undergo a lot of rigor in your research, in your understanding of the firm, in your understanding of why, despite too many disruptions and evolutionary changes, this company will not give you a weak earnings outcome over a 10-year period. Why, despite the fact that there will be too many political party changes, too many macroeconomic changes, management teams of these companies will change, why you should still be able to back the earnings expectation of 25%, right? That requires a lot of rigor, a lot of hard work. In a way, this really is the value add that we as Marcellous are trying to bring to your portfolio via investing in Type C, by first of all pulling out the excitement from the portfolio, making it very boring and hence very less volatile, but also making sure that the earnings compounding is healthy enough for you to keep compounding your wealth over a long period of time, rather than just giving you a great 3, 6 month or 9 month outcome on the portfolio, right? So that's the main reason why, because it's boring and because getting the conviction on 25% is not an easy job. That's one reason why it is very simple to understand that investing in HDFC Bank and Asian Paints types of stocks will actually give you the best compounding with the least volatility. But it's very difficult to implement, and hence we believe we can give our investors 20 to 25% compounding of the portfolio with the volatility akin to that of a government bond.